Washington Monthly magazine ranks universities in America based on how they contribute to the public good. Last year, they ranked UC San Diego #1 in the country. I also ask you to join me in acknowledging our sponsors who helped to make this week possible and affordable for you and for us. The Dell Social Innovation Competition, Joan and Erwin Jacobs, Laureate Education, Life Technologies, Andy Nahas and the Prospect Fund, Qualcomm Incorporated, and U.S. Global Investors. Thank you to all of you very much. We opened this to the larger UC San Diego public, but the delegates here at CGIU include more than 1,000 students from all 50 states in our country, plus 90 other countries, all told from 349 institutions of higher education. You have made 950 commitments already to change your schools, your communities, and the lives of the people around the corner and across the world. And for that, I thank you. You know, young people have a greater ability to do public good as private citizens than ever before. Since its inception in 2008, CGIU commitments have helped about 150,000 people around the world. Thousands of children and adults have received access to education that wasn't there before, or job training. More than 80,000 improved access to health care and social services. Millions of dollars have been raised for scholarships, for humanitarian relief, for hospitals and other programs. I'm very glad that we've been able to help people turn their good ideas into positive action. This September, we'll have the 7th meeting of the Clinton Global Initiative in New York, convening heads of states, CEOs, nonprofit directors, philanthropists, people from all over the world. The members of CGI have, over 7 years, made about 2,000 commitments, and we have documented improvements in the lives of 300 million people in 170 countries. Both CGI and the CGIU are global networks of people who want to use the resources they have, beginning with the ideas and energy of youth, to make a real difference. And you have something our often much wealthier annual meeting members don't have. When I was in politics for quite a long while, I loved every day of it, but most debates were dominated by 2 questions. What are you going to do, and how much money are you going to spend on it? Right? I mean, look at the debate in Washington on this budget. Should we have raised taxes on millionaires and invested more in education and technology, or should we just cut more? Or if it's a controversial issue, the question was always, well, are you for it or against it? Nobody said, well, why are you for it, or if you're against it, what's your alternative? And I believe that in the 21st century, the most important question may well be, not are you for or against it, or what are you going to do and how much money are you going to spend on it, but whatever you propose to do and however much money you have or don't, how do you propose to do it to turn your good intentions into real changes in other people's lives so that your lives and the lives of the people with whom you share this planet for a brief period will be better together. The how question. College students basically are more prone to think about the how question. You, by and large, don't have $1 million to throw around on your commitments. You might start with 1,000 or 100 or even $10. But you have talent and time. And you have to think about what it is you're going to do that will attract other supporters to your cause. How are you going to keep score? If it doesn't work quite as you imagined, is there some way to change course and still achieve what you set out to do? I'd like to give you a few examples of some of the commitments that CGIU members have made this year. Merlin Lee of the University of Nevada is connecting Native American undergraduates with professional mentors. A big deal. On the whole, the Native Americans who live on tribal lands without gambling still have the lowest per capita income of any ethnic group in America, and they need this education. Matt Severson from Brown built a website called the School Fund. It lets anybody, anywhere who logs onto the website pay all or a portion of school fees for individual students in Tanzania, Kenya, or Haiti. One of the cruel ironies of the world in which we live is that in America, if you're a working person with modest incomes, or if your family's on welfare, you at least have access to free public education. The poorest people have to pay even to go to the public schools. In Haiti, fewer than half the kids are enrolled in school, fewer than half of them in free schools. The others have to pay tuition. And you see this throughout Africa and many countries in Southeast Asia and elsewhere. This is a great idea. Charlotte Crone from North Carolina Central University has found an interesting way, an immensely practical way, to try to empower people to reverse America's current #1 public health problem, childhood obesity. She is providing children with weekly meal plans, food stamp compliant grocery lists, and recipes that can feed an entire family of 4 for a whole week for $50 in a nutritious way. Max Silver from right here at UC San Diego. Now, this is one of those projects that will probably be copied after you leave here, elsewhere, which is the whole point of this, by the way. This is supposed to be a laboratory of democracy. In much the way states were considered laboratories of democracy by the Founding Fathers, networks of cooperating young people should be considered the laboratories of 21st century democracy. Think of the young people in Egypt talking to the young people in Tunisia and how they reached out to the young people in Belgrade, in Serbia, who helped to topple Mr. Milosevic. They created a laboratory of democracy. Anyway, here's what Max Silver is going to do. He's come up with creative ways to educate his fellow students about changes in the federal education tax credit, and I might add the student loan law. Because if there's one thing I learned as president and before as a governor, just because you change the law doesn't mean anybody knows you did it, understands how it works, knows how to access the benefits of it, or will do a thing unless somebody basically puts it in language they can understand and creates a user-friendly system. Mac's goal is to save the students just here at this one university $2.5 million a year. We did that on a pro rata basis at every institution of higher education in America. The dropout rate from college would plummet precipitously. So I thank you for that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some tough issues this week. Poverty along the U.S.-Mexican border, and how it's been aggravated by violence in the conflicts between the Mexican government, the narco-traffickers, and, frankly, United States policy, which often results in American gun stores arming the drug gangs. The fight for LGBT rights, pollution in our ocean, climate change, the relationship of college affordability to the almost unbelievable falling from the perch of world leadership in the percentage of our young people with college degrees. From the end of World War II and the advent of the GI Bill, the United States consistently ranked first in the world in the percentage of our young people with four-year degrees. Even though we took in wave after wave after wave of immigrants, even though we saw dramatic changes in the family structure and especially in the last 30 years, increases in income inequality, all of which bore down on the performance of our schools, we knew we had hundreds of world-class colleges and universities, and we kept our #1 ranking. Now it's estimated that by 2050, 2/3 of the new jobs will require some form of post-high school education, and virtually 100% of the new jobs will be created by people who have a college education. And yet, from the day I left office until the day before the financial meltdown, the United States fell from first in the world to 9th in the percentage of its adults with four-year degrees. And if you stop at young adults, ages 25 to 36, we fell to 12th. The interesting thing is, the hopeful thing, we still rank first in the world of the percentage of people who actually go on to college. There are all kinds of other problems too. We're not producing enough scientists and engineers and other things, but we've got to deal with this, and you've got to help us. Your application to come here shows that you believe you can make a difference and you wish to do so. We're going to try to help you reaffirm that conviction and amplify the impact of your efforts. You'll probably get more out of talking to each other over the next 2 days than nearly anything else you do. But I hope you find these panels helpful as well. Before we start the first plenary and I introduce the first commitments, I want you to hear from two people. Paul Jacobs, our anchor sponsor, the chairman of Qualcomm, and first, the chancellor of UC San Diego, Marianne Fox. She became a chemist in the 1960s when there weren't very many women chemists in the United States or anywhere else. Tried to help other young women who want to pursue careers in science. I first met her after the first World Trade Center bombing. Last fall, she was awarded the National Medal of Science, the highest commendation a scientist can receive within the United States. This is really important. She got it for her research into how to harness and deliver renewable energy, and for creating partnerships between university and industry that have led to the development of new jobs. In June, we're going to have our first CGI meeting in Chicago devoted exclusively to trying to create jobs within the United States. My own conviction is the simplest, most obvious way is to change the way we produce and consume energy. But the chancellor knows a lot more about it than I do. So